Welcome everybody to Sharing Soulful Stories. Today I am here with Zena Rose. Welcome, Zena.
Hi, Joe. It's great to be here.
It is so wonderful to have you on, and I just want to tell everybody a little bit more about Zena so they know who we're talking to today. Zena is a yoga teacher, a Tantra practitioner, and a massage therapist, deeply passionate about evolving consciousness, healing, and sexuality. Through many years of Tantra and Taoist study, as well as an extensive personal practice, Zena has been able to heal deeply, drop many layers of social and cultural conditioning, and step into a profoundly embodied, empowered, and blissful state of being. As well as teaching yoga, Zena loves to share how a conscious cultivation of pleasure can be used as a potent tool to generate deep healing, access personal power, and connect with the vibration of love and joy within each of us. Oh, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So I have been starting all of these interviews, all of these conversations with the question, what does spirituality mean to you?
Yes. So that's a wonderful question, and I'm sure that you've been getting many very different answers, because that's the funny thing with spirituality. We all talk about it like it's a word that's used quite a lot, but it tends to mean something different to every person. So I'll give you mine. We tend to go through life in quite a separate sort of container, like my experience, my personality, my story, this is my career, this is my money, and this is what I do. And spirituality is what takes us beyond that separateness, beyond that container, and into a sense of interconnectedness with other people, with nature, with the universe, with everything. So it breaks that that sense of separateness and expands us into something greater than ourselves. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're
so it could be, yeah.
No,
it could be. So spirituality could be a practice, or it is a practice for me, definitely. But it could also be an experience. So you can have an experience of spirituality, maybe deeply connecting with nature, or you can have that experience on the yoga mat. You can have it making love, or there's a lot of different ways to sort of access that greater part of ourselves and that greater part of everything, that sense of connectedness. Yeah. And then it's also practice to find that space within ourselves. Yeah.
Beautiful. And you're so right. So I think this is about the 20th conversation I've had, and no two descriptions of spirituality and what it means to people have been the same. There's themes that are weaving through them, and threads that are like certainly that thread of connection with more than the separateness of our individual being that we are and exist as this human that's here, is probably a thread that's weaved through a lot of descriptions, but they're just all so unique. And I love that the journey can be, that's what we're trying to figure out. What does it even mean for us? So can I ask you, having a gorgeous description of what spirituality means to you, has spirituality always been part of your life?
No. The short answer is no, not at all. Having said that, I love that quote. I don't know who said that, but that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So on a greater level, I believe that spirituality is and always has been a part of everyone's life, whether they know it, like it or not. But as far as having a practice and having an awareness of a spiritual life, no, not at all. I grew up in a family of very hardcore, devoted atheists. So it was quite anti-God and anti-religion, and science is the only way, basically. And it was always sort of science versus religion, and there was not really any space in between those two things. That came in a lot later, to find out that actually I can be a spiritual person without having to identify with any particular religion, which I still don't. Yeah.
And was there a particular event that triggered that shift for you, or was that just something that unfolded over time?
Yes. So there's been a few major events in my life that have triggered an exploration into spirituality, and also have taken my spiritual journey onto different paths, because there's so many different paths to a spiritual experience. The biggest one, the biggest trigger, which is what brought me to yoga, was when I started having panic attacks a few years ago. And this is a very, very common story for yoga teachers. You hear it all the time. Either anxiety or depression happens and takes hold, and sometimes it doesn't really have anything to do with what's happening in your life. And that was the case for me. Like, my life was all very beautiful, and it was all nicely set up. I lived in a beautiful house. I was studying psychology. I was doing well. I was in a relationship with a beautiful partner. That was all fine. But I was having these terrible, terrible panic attacks. And after one in particular that landed me in hospital, because I really thought I was dying, I thought, my goodness, I've got to change something. There's something in my life that's just not working. I've really got to find something greater. And I thought, okay, well, what do happy people do? They do yoga. So I just rocked up to the local yoga studio, which happened to be the living room in Coogee, where I now teach, and did a few classes. And I think it was maybe my third class, I just had that moment that, oh my goodness, I feel amazing. I realized that my mind had gone quiet, that I was in my body, and I was, it was hard. Like, it was one of those really full-on sweaty yoga classes. Like, I was really being pushed, but I was being pushed so much, and in a way that was so new, that my mind was just completely stunned and had shut up for once. And I just felt incredible. And I thought, my God, I need to do this. I need to be doing a lot more of this. And so I plunged into yoga, and haven't really looked back since. Yeah, within 2 years, I was teaching yoga. After a couple of years of going to practice every day, twice a day, often, started teaching, and it all unfolded from there. Yeah,
amazing. I love that. I love that your example of how this came to you was on the yoga mat. I just think that's fantastic. There is this other thing where my mind shuts up for a minute, and I can just be in this moment. That's so gorgeous.
Be in my body. So good. Yeah.
So I know there's more to your story than that. So I would love to hear
yes.
how,
I just needed a break.
Since discovering that being in your body, give us a little more about the story, any lows, or just how it's unfolded since then for you.
Yep. Okay. So I started studying yoga after that, like quite seriously. I was never a, once a week class kind of girl. I really just jumped right in, both feet right in. I was studying, I was reading the books, I started meditating, and I started to open to maybe my education having not been totally ideal for me. And I started to open to the concept of a different kind of God So a God that was not, the old man in the sky kind of God, but more of a nature or an intelligent universe, or a benevolent consciousness that was organizing all of this life thing. So I started opening to that. And as I opened, my intuition opened a lot more, and I started having spiritual experiences, spontaneous visions in meditation. I had a vision of myself giving birth to my yoga teacher's baby, which happened about a year later. I had a vision that we were going to have a child together, and we did. A little girl, Lily. I had all sorts of experiences in meditation, in class, just all sorts of things, and I just opened. I just went, okay, well, what if everything is possible? Maybe I don't have to decide what I believe and what I don't believe in, and just be open and just see what happens. And that really worked for me. That worked a lot better than being like, no, I don't believe in this, and I do believe in this and this. Just being open, that worked. That really worked for me. And so I did a few years of that, of just being open, of meditating, of learning a lot of things. And then there was another trigger event which happened about 3 years ago. So I was in a relationship with the man who had been my first yoga teacher, and that relationship was not going well. There was some really, really serious issues in that relationship that were deeply, deeply challenging for me. Very, very difficult. And I was not willing at that point to leave the relationship. I wanted to stay. And I felt that it was a practice for me to, like it was my spiritual practice to stay with him and to step into a new way of being for me that that was not previously possible for me. So I was stepping up into someone else. So parts of that sense of self that I had constructed were falling away. And one particular day, I was in a lot of pain, a lot of emotional pain. More than I had ever been in at that point in my life. And I was alone in the house, and I sat down to meditate, and I just thought, this pain can destroy me. It can make me into someone who is contracted and bitter and angry, or I can open and let this pain through. And so I sat there with palms up and said to the universe, bring on the pain. I'm ready. Bring it on. I want to feel all of it. And I expected to go into agony, basically. I expected to be destroyed in a very painful way, but I did trust. But instead of going into agony, I went into the deepest state of ecstasy that I have ever been in my entire life. I felt like the entire orgasmicness of the universe was making love to me. I felt complete connection. I felt complete oneness. I felt like I was the size of the universe, and that I was a universe having a massive, massive orgasmic experience. And there wasn't really any going back after that. Sounds a little bit dramatic, but that's completely changed my life definitely more than the panic attacks, more than anything. That energy didn't leave me. That energy stayed with me, and it still is. And it's an energy that's within all of us, I discovered. So I have been learning to cultivate and harness that beautiful sexual energy that flowed through me by opening to pain 3 years ago. That's what I've been doing. And I discovered that has a name, that is the path of Tantra, which is working with sexual energy. But I didn't go looking for that. I didn't think, oh, I'm interested in Tantra, I'll start learning about it and start working with that. I actually was propelled onto this path, and I love it, and I wouldn't change it. But I don't feel that I had a choice. It was just, this is what I have to do. This is what has been decided for me. Yeah. So that was my my trigger points, my big events.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder, having shared that with us, I feel like I want to ask just a little bit more about the Tantra journey and where,
Yeah, go for it.
how that's unfolded since that time. As in, you mentioned you've discovered there's a name for it, and can you just share a little bit more about that story and that unfolding into discovering this sexual energy? Excuse me.
Yeah. So call in that energy at any time. Am I back?
Yeah, you froze for a second there.
Am I here?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I discovered that energy could be called in at any time. So at first I of course played around with calling it in when I was making love with my partner. And that was an amazing thing, because my pleasure did not depend on him anymore. All of a sudden, he was not giving me orgasms. I was orgasmic, and I was sharing that experience with him. And as I was sharing those experiences and working on moving energy and becoming, just becoming more and more open, basically all the channels were just becoming more and more open, things were coming to me. Things, memories, things from childhood were coming to me during lovemaking or during meditation. I'd be like, oh my God, I need to stop. I need to process this, I need to talk about it. So this energy was moving up, and it was changing my brain, my mind, like it was changing my consciousness. I was becoming aware of a lot of things, and I started seeing things a lot differently as well, seeing women much differently. Suddenly women were magnificent, because I could now see that energy in all of them. And it's still like that. This morning I went to what's my happy place now, the ladies' baths in Coogee, where you can sunbathe naked. And I just look at all the women, and I'm like, my goodness, you are magnificent. And so many of them don't know it. But that was one of the things that changed. So I went to a lot of workshops. I realized very, very quickly that the energy was guiding me to where I needed to go. So I allowed myself to be guided in terms of where my healing needed to take place. So the first one was, I had a lot of feelings of sort of competition and judgment around other women. Despite seeing them as goddesses now, I still felt a lot of insecurities around other women, especially beautiful women. And so I did some work to heal that, and it healed very, very quickly. It was amazing. And then I started to go into healing my relationship with my yoni, which is the Sanskrit name for vagina. So going into that, really connecting deeply with, the core of my being, the core of my womanhood. And and I let it unfold from there. So it was very healing, and it's been a very deep and very fast journey, because working with sexual energy is very, very powerful. It's they say that Tantra is an accelerated path, and that you get to you really get to face all the darkness that is within you, and you face it quite rapidly. It comes up really quick. So it's not just a big pleasure trip. It's not just about energy orgasms all the time. It's about the flip side as much as that. So about working with the dark as much as the light, and working with staying grounded in the body as much as you work with moving up into the realms of spirit. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad that I asked you that, because I just that gave a lovely, like, just extra flavor to pique people's curiosity, perhaps, you know.
Mm,
Is that sort of part of
yeah.
what this is about, you know, helps demonstrating or showing that there are lots of different ways. There are lots of different ways. Which ones, you know, might align or resonate or, you know, work for different people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Mm.
And so I would love to know, how do you weave, I know you talked about practices, or you touched on it earlier, but how would you say you
Mm-hmm.
weave spirituality through your day, the rhythm of your day, your work, and your life?
Oh, well, so I think that when you first start on this journey, spirituality is maybe something that's quite separate, or a bit of a unique part of your life. Like you'll have, you know, your meditation practice in the morning, for instance, and then you'll go about your life. Or you'll have your yoga practice that you do after work, and other than that, you just do your life. But as you go deeper, you tend to just have a spiritual experience of life, and it's not really separate. It's everything, really. It's bringing that deeper level of awareness into everything that you do. And yeah, so that's a huge question. It's a constant practice of noticing my thoughts, for instance, noticing my blocks. Because I work with the body, I'm almost constantly monitoring the sensations that are going on in my body and how activated I feel, how connected I feel to that orgasmic energy. And when it's really shut down, I notice it. I'm like, my goodness, what's going on? You know, what is happening in my mind and in life that's causing me to feel shut down this way. So there's a constant awareness that is there, that is weaved through, woven. Yeah. Thing that I do is, of course, there's practices that help me to feel more connected. So for one of the things that I love is creating really beautiful spaces in my home and at work as well. So I've got a little altar. I don't know if I can flip the camera on this. No.
I don't think
But
when we're
I can
recording.
try to show
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I'll try to show you. So I've got my little temple over here. So I've got little cards, plants, just little things that are meaningful to me.
Yeah.
Little box with my yoni eggs that I practice with. So lots of plants and lots of candles and some crystals and things that remind me of my sensuality and that remind me of that feeling of expansiveness and space and juiciness and activation all at once. So having those reminders in my space and in my life are really important. So that you can create that. Anyone can create a little temple or a little altar that you know they can go to and put energy into and get energy from as well. And then, of course, I meditate a lot. I would say that meditation is probably my core practice still. So every day I spend a little bit of time meditating, and that's really important. And it's deeply, deeply pleasurable for me now.
Yeah.
I work with yoni eggs as well. So almost every day I've got 3, and work with them, work on developing that energy and you know still learning how to use it, because it's an ongoing journey. You're never there. And then as a yoga teacher, of course, that's I mean, it's everything really. I'm not teaching people how to do poses. I'm really teaching them how to feel so deeply within their bodies that they feel that sense of interconnectedness with everything. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love all of that. I know. I really just I just love the idea that spirituality can become part of sort of everything we do. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a thing, and I think that's come up in a few different interviews. So thank you though for sharing that. That's kind of what's ultimately unfolded for you. Is it's almost this constant, just heightened awareness of of what's
Yeah,
around.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And thank you for showing us your temple, because your little altar, because I think people might hear people talk about it and they're not quite sure what would I put there, where would I put it, you know, and
Yeah,
that's really,
it can be anything you want. Yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't have to. I don't have any gods or goddesses on mine. I've got some images of beautiful women that are really sensual, and some plants and some candles. Like, it can be anything you like.
beautiful. I just, yeah, thank you so much for showing that.
You're welcome.
And the last little thing I would love to ask you is, for somebody ready to dip their toe in, and whether this has a tantric theme to it or not is totally up to you. But what advice would you have for somebody who's feeling into whether some of what you've talked about today is interesting for them?
Oh, what a great question. I would tell them to follow what they already know. So what I mean by that is that we all know there's that little voice inside of all of us that's going, you need to be painting, or you need to be dancing. There's that little voice that's like, this is what you need to do for your happiness, your peace of mind, your growth. And I would say to follow that. So lately, my little voice, quite surprisingly, has said that I need to do singing. So I've been like, wow, okay, well, this is a bit different, but I'll do that. So I've started taking singing lessons, and I love it. And anything can be can be a portal into a spiritual experience. So for me, my chosen portals are more around yoga, meditation, and really amazing sex, or working with sexual energy. But they could just as easily be swimming in cold water and dancing and whatever else. Like, they following what it is that makes you really happy and makes you feel like you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. I would do that. That is where I would start. Yeah. So it's not necessarily yoga.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I really love that you the way you phrase that, then, actually, that something that makes you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because I feel like sometimes we do what makes you feel good, or do what lights you up, and all of these things. But I love that, because it adds this deeper layer of, and when you're doing it, it just feels like, yes, this is what my body wants to do. This is what my spirit wants to do. It's that's what people, or that's sort of when I say do what lights you up, that's what I'm
Exactly.
will take from
Yeah. And what lights you up might still really, really scare you. It might take a lot of courage to do it. And that's cool. Find that courage. Just do it. Just do it.
That's the best advice to end on there. And so I just want to get you to let everybody know as we finish up, if they're curious, if they want to know more about Zena and what you do, where do they go to find you?
Yeah. So I've got a website, zenarose.com.au, so you can check that out. I would love anyone who's listened to this to come to a class at Dharmashala. So that's where I teach on Friday mornings and Saturday afternoons. And then for the women who are listening, I've got a beautiful monthly women's circle called Shakti Nights that I'm starting next month, so February, at Dharmashala. So the first one will be on the 16th of Feb at 6 p.m. So that's a Saturday. And that'll be a monthly time to come together as women and really drop into our bodies and remove all those those masks and those roles that we play. You know, just drop being a mum, drop being, you know, an accountant or whatever it is that you do for work, drop all of those roles that you play and just be a woman with other women in a beautiful space, doing womanly things like talking to each other and dancing together and massaging each other and stroking each other's hair. All these beautiful things that, you know, when we get together with friends, we don't tend to do because, you know, might feel a little bit weird to do that. But when the space is held in such a way that it's, you know, it's normal and that's what we do, my goodness, it feels so good. For me, it feels like, you know, the way that we're supposed to be hanging out together as women. It feels so nurturing, and it's, yeah, it gives me energy to go and do everything else. Hanging out with women is really, really important for us. I feel that we don't do it enough in our culture. So that's why I'm starting this. I'm really excited. Got some beautiful women signed up already. So that's, I'll give you the link so you can share it. But it's on Eventbrite as Shakti Nights in Bondi.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I will put all the links below when this video gets shared. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your another angle on spirituality. I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Jo. Thanks for having me. You're so welcome.
No, you're so welcome. All right. Bye. Bye for now.